Oh.
Hello, everyone, to Season 2 of TLG's Faction Chat. Today, I'm joined by a very special co-host. It's Rado and Rada. We all know that we're going to miss Chelsea boy, but we have equally dashing Radu. So, hello, and thanks for joining us today, Andrada.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to be here, especially because this is the beginning of our second season of Faction Chat, and we are gonna have a really good time in this episode because we are joined by the one and only Potato Warrior Crozier and our amazing teammate, the master of Skellige control of the Beta Gwent, Mr. Bowman.
Thank
He
you.
hasn't made a new deck like in this one, so
I know. It's gonna get old.
I don't approve this title anymore. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
So today we're gonna start the season with Escape. Probably everyone's favorite faction still. What's the on the agenda today? Now that our guests have been introduced, Andrada.
So we are gonna. Well, a good way to start for us would be to find everyone's thoughts, find out about everyone's thoughts on Homecoming after playing so much of the old Gwent. So I'm gonna start myself. I think Skellige is one of the strongest factions right now. I really enjoy the fact that it's the faction with the most consistency in the game. So, what do you think, Beardy? What's your
well, I definitely agree. I think this is probably the closest we have to old Gwent in terms of consistency. So there's lots of tending involved, and you get to see all your cards and every game. So it does feel definitely good. And then again, you have Lippy. So Lippy is very fun card to build your deck around. So every game is kind of unique in my opinion. So I'm definitely enjoying SK. I don't have as big results as some other guys do, but it's definitely fun, and I think it's quite viable. But in terms of consistency, it's probably one of the best. So yeah, I pretty much agree. So how about rest of our guests, Mr. Crozer?
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that has been said so far. So in terms of consistency, of course, with Brandon, he's Mr. Consistency himself. And if you play Lippy on top of it, you can thin to -6 cards and still play. So that's I guess what makes it really feel like it still captures this old Gwent consistency spirit. But for me, I think even though Crack is a lot of fun to play, one of the most fun I had was very early in the season when I was experimenting with the self wound stuff. It was horrible. It doesn't work. But it's still I wish that archetype would see some love, and we could see some more decks coming from that angle.
Yeah, following on, I think from that, Crazy, I agree. There's a lot of backbone for Skellige, right? There's a lot of the archetypes that we all have seen over the history of Gwent. They're still there. There's a lot of archetypes, maybe more than for other factions, but they just don't have the power. And it's a bit sad. The control list that's very popular at the moment and variants thereof are very strong, but all the other archetypes they have all the cards, but just not the power. And I guess maybe we see a few changes to some of the provisions of some of the values of some of the cards. We might see these archetypes on ladder. We can hope, at least.
Yeah, I agree.
I can agree with what you guys said. I think that the new Gwent has a lot from the old Gwent, and especially from the really old Gwent, like this card and those mechanics which we missed lately.
Yeah, this card was actually what I was playing when I hit GM for the very first time back in close beta. So it holds a special place in my heart.
The regular shenanigans. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So we have a very hot question, I guess, and it's concerning SK and it's ultimate counter in the form of Xavier Lemons, also known as Lemon Man, Lemon Head, whatever you want to call it, a pretty cute guy, right? So the question is he the deciding factor as to why King Brand this card is not the viable archetype currently? And thoughts on the upcoming nerf announced to him? Honestly, like I can't say this like from my experience since like I never played Brand this card and all those bears, but it just seems to me that the deck is like pretty weak on its own because he basically like sacrificed all deck building to play a bronze card. I guess like 3 times, which is maybe more. I guess if you have decoy. So yeah, I guess it's pretty good. So it might be better than it is now, but at the same time, I think like I face Xavier Lemons maybe like once in every 6 or 7 games. So it's not like the card was completely broken or oppressive or however you want to call it. And with this nerf, I think the card is definitely going to be dead. Like I would be like amazed if anyone plays the card anymore. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I think it will definitely, I guess, make SK more playable, but I don't think the SK was in a bad spot to begin with. So those are my thoughts. How about you, Andrada?
I really think that the idea of banishing something from the graveyard is really good, but I think he's too cheap. So maybe put a little bit more provisions onto that card, and also don't allow him to banish everything because it feels like too much. And yeah, he's a good counter for Skellige, but Lippy doesn't suffer from it too bad. You can play around him in a way. Bran does. Like it hurts Bran a lot, and I didn't play Bran because of that. So how do you, Bowman, feel about this?
I mean, for me, it's harder to say now, right? Because the Lippy meta's been and gone. Everybody's basically stopped playing decks that auto lose to it because, the Xavier meta, because you can't, and it was painful and traumatizing. But I feel like the biggest problem is that Bran only has his 1 mulligan. The cards that at the moment you have to run or else you can never win round 1, Witches and Roach. To play them is well, you have to be a brave man to do it or brave woman to do it. And I feel like at this moment, that's the biggest thing holding Bran back, more so than of course you can still auto lose to that card, but it's not that common at the moment. Because of the sort of the equilibrium that's been reached between decks that lose to it and decks that are running it.
But wait, like doesn't Bran doesn't need any mulligans, so sure you can't run Roach, but like you always like tins, so I don't think like Bran necessarily needs any mulligan. It's not like Araka's Queen or something. So I don't think that's holding Bran back, in my opinion.
You think that? So you think it's okay you can run the Witches and Roach?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. No, you can't run Roach. That's like a bit too greedy, but you can definitely run Witches. Like the likelihood of you having
RNG than most of us.
You can just discard one of them. It's okay. 8 points.
Yeah.
I mean, in the beast deck at least, it gives you with Roach, it gives you another beast in the graveyard. But yeah, I agree that Lemons, like just ruffle stomps the Bearmaster deck, so it's kind of too harsh there. I think against most other decks, the nerf to like banishing 3 cards alone wouldn't do that much, right? You would just still finish off any big boy woodland if you just get like 2 or 3 of their big boys out of the graveyard. So I think it is necessary to like increase provisions or something. I'm not quite sure if both of it is warranted, like both limiting and the provision increase, because then you will never see that card again ever unless there's like some super OP deck that requires the graveyard. And so I'm not quite sure if I like the nerf to be this harsh, but it definitely needs one. Like it definitely needs one.
Maybe it's not gonna be that harsh, like they said.
Yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of people, we've all seen, right? I think most of us have seen the leaks from Berza about what's coming in the patch, and it's easy to assume from that, right? The discussion about limiting to 3 cards and the increase in provisions up to 12, I think was the number. But remember that could come with a change to the body as well. So it could be, if it's it could be a 9, 8, maybe, I don't know, 10 strength body, probably too good. But if it's on a higher value body, then it isn't necessarily.
Yeah, it might be just like a tech card, which he was always intended to be, I guess. So yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah.
So some interesting thoughts. What's next in the store, Andrada?
So we have another question, and It's from one of our viewers. So the question is like this: where do you rank Skellige and its leaders as a faction? I think that Skellige might be maybe the second, or might be the best faction in the game right now, because it's just strong. I feel like it's very strong, and people got really good scores with it. So I'm curious what you guys think about it, and I'm gonna throw the question to BRD.
Well, I tend to agree. I think if I had to place it, I would go number 2. It's definitely very, very strong faction. It has like perfect amount of like control options, which are being prevalent right now. Any form of that like crack deck is like very, very strong on red. And then like I know some people achieved rather big scores with Axemen. I mean, great swords, whatever. So yeah, whatever you want to call it. So I think that deck is probably secretly underrated because what like Herald with Dagger is like instantly 20 points, which can't be interacted with. So even like if you're like car down, you can probably win. So also like what we touched in the beginning is tinning, and in my opinion, tinning is winning. So SK is probably the only faction which has that left. Like, sure, you can run like Riches, Roach, and like some like Royal Decree, ADC, and all those suitors, but they're rather expensive. Whereas like here, like you have natural discard synergy, and yeah, you can always like discard bad cards, which in my opinion is like super strong. So yeah, just like for the tinning alone, I would say like number 2, maybe even 1, I guess. Like, but I haven't like played SK that much, so can't tell. So yeah, that's me. How about you, Crozier?
Yeah, I also think like that it might be the strongest faction right now. At least with Crack and his control deck, it might have the strongest deck at least. About Iced and Herald, I'd not be so sure. I mean, Herald is more or less just a one-trick pony with Dagger most of the time, or like the Dragon's Dream combo, right?
My score with Skellige was made with that. And
oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't play the other one.
Yeah, maybe like one-trick pony doesn't need to mean it's bad, right? As long as it works.
It's good. It's kind of good.
Yeah. I mean,
Dragon's
Dragon's
got
Dream.
at least the second trick. Have you guys not seen Viz's artifact list? He's running.
Oh yeah.
I don't think there's any units, let alone that. He's got at least 2 tricks, Harold.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And I think beyond that, like Crack is just he has all the mulligans. He's like with his little pingy thing. He synergizes so well with what he's trying to do, and and he's like he can even play around artifacts a bit, around scorch effects and stuff, which are also very, very dominant right now with that little ping sometimes. So I think it's like just a very strong leader all around. And I guess the only things he really suffers against sometimes is Big Boys Woodland and maybe Eridan, depending on how the first round goes. So I think at least he's got a chance to win against everything that's in the game for the most part, unless something's really catered around it. And I have to say, just today, Saber queued into me with some weird buy NG deck that gave me a lot of trouble. So maybe there's still something that's not discovered yet that can actually deal with it quite well.
So Bowman, what do you think about this?
I mean, yeah. So, like you guys have said, clearly the kind of Crack control list is one of the best decks in the game at the moment, maybe the best or second best. But if we're trying to consider the faction as a whole, it depends on how you evaluate it, right? Like Skellige has a lot of archetypes that are very weak, and so if you sort of average, across all the leaders and all the kind of all the archetypes, I think Skellige is very weak. But if you just consider the top couple, maybe yeah. So Crack Control, maybe the Great Swords as it now is deck. Sure, maybe if you just consider those 2, it might be the strongest, if not the second strongest faction. But if you want to consider all the possible archetypes that there are, and that's maybe just because Skellige actually has a lot more possible archetypes than most other factions, right? And yeah, if you consider them, it's pretty weak on average.
Okay. I'm kind of surprised to hear that someone thinks Skellige is average. Okay.
I'm not happy. It doesn't make me happy to say that. Obviously, I have always loved Skellige, but at the moment, I don't really have a great love for it. I see. It's just not. But I don't have that burning.
Just not the same. Yeah.
Not the
I know what you
same.
mean.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess we move to the next question. And like I already like spoke with my guests, and like I can't pronounce this one. Even try. It comes from JMJ Wilson, and it's a very good question. So, what changes would you make so that the discount package, Burner Brand, Morquag, Hamey Scald, and Scum become less, prevalent across SK decks / archetypes? Or do you feel it is in a fine position? So yeah, this wasn't the original, question. I had to, put like a synonym, but that's the meaning. So I think I mean obviously I'm not a developer, and I can't give some like good thoughts, but I think I don't know. I think Burner Brand is definitely gonna see play in every SK deck, even if provisions rise. Mainly because she if you draw her round one, she basically ensures that you draw like other good cards round 2 and 3, and then she can still be like lots of points if you discard Morquag and Skirmisher, right? So she serves like double purpose. So I think the card is like probably like overtuned, I guess. But at the same time, like this is what makes SK, right? So like if you have no discard whatsoever, then I guess like she becomes even more powerful because you get like fewer discards. But then again, like you have I think like SK bronzes are very bad. Say for like I don't know, like Savage Bass and a couple of more. So like I guess in that regard they're kind of like balanced, since I guess you can discard them, right? But I don't know, like Morquag is definitely a very strong card. Even if you play it from hand, like he still comes back. So I don't know. It definitely seems like that package is like overtuned, but I have no alternative to propose like how to change. So it's a great question. So I suppose like we should hear other people's opinions. So how about you, Andrada?
For me, I played Lippy. I tried a couple of decks with Lippy, and most games I lost were because I didn't find Birna in time. So I think she's a really strong card, and you really need her in most of the decks. Plus, in the state of Gwent right now, you don't have too many tutors, and being able to just thin your deck out out of bad cards, like maybe you want to throw a D-bomb in the graveyard, or maybe you want to throw Clear Sky or something like that. Birna is just ideal for that. So it helps you put low provision cards that you don't ever want to play and just get rid of them. So to cut her out, CDPR would need to give me Blacklist and a ton of mulligans and a ton of tutors. That's the only way I'm cutting her out of my Skellige deck. So that's me. I'm curious what Bowman thinks about that.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Andrada, with that. I think it's the reason why like this card package is so strong is because the alternatives that you need, for example, like a tutors and blacklisting, so to make your mulligans better, they've taken such a big hit that the discard package, even if it hasn't really been buffed, it's just a much more efficient way of doing those things. You want to, instead of running Roll Decree, having to sacrifice 12 provisions, you just run kind of a 5 for 8 that lets you thin through your deck by 2. And maybe proc some additional discard synergies. Yeah, it's just so much more efficient. And I think so. That's it, right? That one way that it could become less ubiquitous in Skellige would be if and I doubt this is the way they're ever going to go. But in principle, if they ever wanted to reduce the cost of tutors, or maybe bring back blacklisting, or add more mulligans even to all leaders, which is definitely something that a lot of people have talked about. If they increased other ways of sort of getting making of improving your hand, or getting key cards, if they made them more viable, then maybe that would put the discard package naturally in its place.
Nice.
Yeah, I'd agree 100% with that. I think it's right now it's like fun to play also because you actually get to see most of your cards and you actually get your game plan going with this. I like the cards help you there. And I don't like this kind of thinking where you just have something in the game and it's like very strong but it also feels very good to play. and you decide to nerf it just because it's everywhere. I think instead, like the better way of balancing or game designing or whatever would be to find a way to give enough alternatives that are also equally good, and obviously not just to Skellige but to other factions as well. So it's not like OP or something, so that you don't need to put these cards into every deck, but that there's actually something that gives you a pause and lets you pause and think if you might not want the other cards instead. And in this case, it's about the thinning, of course. So there needs to be some alternatives. I think for the same reason, everyone's playing Witchers and Roach and stuff because there's nothing else that thins the deck. So you need those guys in there, and we'd see much less of those if we had more alternatives there, I think.
I have a question. Like, just remember that like there's a card called the Ron, right? And he pretty much also tends by 3. And I guess like you can also get like some points from that guy. And like I'm not sure like how much provisions does he cost? Like, but doesn't he like kind of serve the similar purpose?
They are the same provision cost, I think.
Especially because like you can also like put like I don't know in graveyard, and like Morkog also like pops back immediately. And nobody is complaining about that guy. So I don't know. I guarantee he's like only 4, and he can't be as big tempo play as Burner. But I think they're like quite similar, and nobody talked about that card. So just wanted to see like your guys' thoughts.
Ladies first, Andrade.
Okay. So I think that because you draw 3 cards in each round, Birna is better because you might draw badly and you don't want to waste your mulligan, so Birna can fix the cards you already have in your hand. While with Darren, you need your bad cards in the deck. So I think that's why Birna is played more than him. But I'm curious what you guys think. So, Crozier, Bowman?
So, and my initial thought on it, sorry, Chris, I'm going to be polite to Andrade, but I'm just going to jump away. What jumps to immediately to me when we're talking about Darren is that you can't run all of these discard cards without Lippy because you overthin, right? You just do the simple math. Because now you draw 16 cards. You can only thin 9. And then if you're running Burner, thinning 2, if you're running Witches and Roach, thinning 3, and you're running two of the bronze discard boys, suddenly you have to you just can't run all of them. So it's just a question of what's more efficient. And from what because of the points Andrade just said, Burner's more efficient.
Yeah, I agree. I was kind of glad you cut me off there because I honestly didn't know exactly what card you were talking about. I'm like so absent from my mind at this point. I was about to see what are you talking about, and then it's like Darren, I see. Yeah. No, I agree. It's just Burner is more efficient. It's usually more points when you play, right? Because if everything goes right, you drop bodies on the board with extra points, and also like yeah, I guess that was my point because Darren doesn't activate all of these abilities. I think it triggers more clock, but it doesn't trigger skirmishes or something. So yeah, it's like it's just.
And it doesn't trigger Brand's passive as well, which is only a minor point, but
it's not discard, it's move. So yeah.
I see. Okay.
All right. So do we have another question?
Yes, we do, and this one comes from our own teammate, DG Thunderer. And his question is formulated like this: with Lippy, do you think the ability to rig your deck is problematic? Playing all your best cards twice at little cost is so strong. Do you think this is the kind of unique ability design we need to see more of the future? So I'm gonna say something that it's not like me because I don't like to abuse mechanics, but I think Lippy is a good card. So I'm sorry, I actually like Lippy. He's broken. His ability is just too strong because it makes you be reckless in round 1 and just drop all your cards, all your good cards at very, very low cost, and then you just play them again in round 3. But there's a little bit of a downside because you need to play around Lemonhead, so you need to drop in round 2. And you might lose a card because you need to play around 2 a little bit just to drop him, in my opinion. So I can give this one to Crozier this time.
I absolutely love that they have something like Lippy in the game. When I saw that card, I was like, yes, please. Because I see that as problematic to balance around a thing like this, and like the way it is in the game right now, you might argue it might be a bit too strong, you know. But I think these kinds of abilities make the game exciting, and I would hate for them to like remove all this kind of stuff from the game again just because there's some people who find a way to abuse it and just try to. I guess it's easy to say for me. Just try to find a way to make it somehow, you know, work in the context of the game. But if you keep like removing abilities like this and then you don't introduce new ones like that are similarly crazy, you just make the game boring, right? And I feel like that's somewhat what had happened over the last uh, like let's just say last year of Gwent balancing, where oftentimes they had some abilities and then like mechanics, and they just removed them when people were too uh, skeptic about them, and instead of trying to find a way to give more answers to these things, because often they're very fun to play. Like I love playing Lippy, but I see if he's too strong, of course he's got to be nerfed a bit still. That's not. I'm not arguing against that, I guess.
I see. Roman, how about you?
Yeah, I'm just going to wait now until I'm addressed. Won't say anything else.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a
I'm
proper
gonna
gentleman.
every
Yeah.
So I feel an obligation here as a member of TLG to voice the opinion of our usual host, who's unfortunately absent, King Ches. I've heard him say it a number of times on his stream, so I think, you know, it's only fair that his opinion gets voiced, which is he hates Lippy. He thinks that the card is completely busted, lets you just play all of your cards in round 1 and then replay them in round 3 or whatever, and you know, it's just completely unfair. So that's his opinion, and I think as you guys have said, there are some arguments for why that could be the case. Something I've seen a lot, this is not my own original thought, but something I've seen other people saying a lot, which makes a lot of sense to me, is that part of why he's too good is tied to the silver, as we call them, the silver witches being too good, right? The fact the silver witches are so good that the ability to use them again is just completely insane. If, as we expect or pray, the silver witches have some kind of a rebalancing, some adjustments are made, then maybe Lippy would be significantly less problematic. But yeah, I definitely agree that the design is really cool, right? Like the idea, it's something unique. It's a what you build a deck around it. As Andrada said, it forces you to play round 2, which is nice because there's an extreme lack of reasons to ever play round 2 in Gwent at the moment. And any of those that exist is a good thing as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, overall really cool card. Yeah. Let's just ignore what Chess thinks.
Our king's voice is heard even when he's away.
It's exactly as a loyal subject. I had to.
You should be Elba now, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm secretly hoping exactly to be assigned some lands, but we'll see.
Yeah. So I'd just like to add something which I don't think like we mentioned before. I think part of the problem with Lippy is basically we can all agree that the ability is busted and blah blah blah, like we all agree. But I think part of the problem is I guess like when CDPR designed him, like they were like, oh, like he's quite expensive and you need to play like 2-point card at some point. But in round 2, you actually play him as 11. 11-point card is no joke, right? So with Morkog and Roach, like you practically don't even necessarily lose a card. So I think that's major problem in my opinion. Just the synergy with Morkog and Roach. So you don't necessarily lose a card, and if you don't lose a card, you always win. And even if you lose a card, you're still in an okay spot, right? But like if you're on even, you're almost definitely gonna win. So I think that interaction is very I don't know, uncanny. I don't really like it, even though it does feel good when you are playing it. But those are my thoughts.
That is true, but it's also kind of hard to play him round 2 because you might get round 1 can be really short. And imagine this: you have 3 cards in your graveyard, and you have to play Lippy round 2. Like you're just screwing everything up. This happened to me a couple of times. It's a really complex card. It's not.
Yeah, definitely. And every game is like rather unique. So yeah, I definitely like it. I'm just saying, like, the silvers connected to that card are probably like, overtuned as well, at least in this interaction. But yeah, just me.
That is okay.
Right, so I think we are approaching a new era of our faction chat, and that's basically choosing live questions and answering them from chat. So I guess I should pick something. If there's I have a question from Mr. Lorico. What do you think about the Miracle SK promoted by Life Coach and then Sir Pumpkin, a deck that uses Lippy, Coral, and Renew twice, with Witches and Roach 3 times? I mean, since we already touched Lippy, I guess very good question to continue our adventure. But like I don't know, like in my opinion, the deck feels like rather memey, gimmicky, like however you want to call it. So I don't think it's particularly strong. Like sure, like if you get that bomber combo, you really feel happy about yourself. And I watched Pumpkin, I think, beat Legion in round 3 by like discarding stuff that he hit like Witches for the 3rd time in round 3. So it definitely does have juice. But I think it's like the idea is niche, but I don't think it can stand like on its own against like other SK decks, like any version of like I guess like non-greedy Lippy or something like that. But and I assume this Miracle SK is like Bran, if that's the deck you're referring to, yeah. So I don't think that deck is particularly strong. How about you? Let's start with Crozier.
Yeah, I think that deck must have gone right over my head. I don't know. I've not really heard about this one. When you say Life Coach promoted this, then this must have been happening like a month ago or something.
Yeah, I mean,
So and I didn't really see it a lot on the letter, right? So I assume
the idea is like they use
well
like I believe Avalak on Coral, and then they keep like discarding. They have a bunch of spells like Clear Skies and Deep Bomb and stuff like that. And then like renew Coral round 3 or renew Lippy or whatever. Like it has like tons of options. But...
Oh, I see. Yeah, I remember very early on I played something with something similar with Coral and like crappy spells, so you could just discard whenever you wanted. And sometimes like I mean no one was playing Weather back then, but sometimes the D-bomb would find value and stuff. I like the idea of that, but I guess it couldn't compete with, as you said, with the other tier decks.
Right, so
Mr. Bowman, what?
Okay, Bowman.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, we need to address Bowman at the same time, and then he can only then he can speak. Yeah.
Up until a couple of days ago, I was in a similar boat to Crozier on this one. I hadn't seen much of it, but suddenly, for some reason, the gods decided that I would see this deck about 10 times in the last couple of days. And so I've got a good feel. And for me, the feeling I have playing against it is exactly the same feeling I had back in Old Gwent playing against 40-card Foltest, where this deck has got the ability to break a billion times and, over all the rounds, but somehow they draw perfectly, you get done by Witches 3 times. And I think we can all relate to the fact that when you lost to 40-card Foltest when it drew perfectly, it felt pretty shitty. And to me, this feels very similar. Like I had one guy who, for whatever reason, couldn't play his Lippy till round 3, had one discard. He had one of the bronze discards and then drew into his Witches, like 12 cards put back in deck by Lippy, and then drew into one of the Witches off it, and then had like a 12-point last play. And yeah, it's rage-inducing for me. But it's a cool idea, right? It's a cool idea. And of course, on average, you have to pay a big price, right? By bricking. On average, I don't know what it works out as, but you don't get to play Witches very many times, or at least not mustering very many times. Maybe you have to play them individually quite a lot. But yeah, when it goes right, it feels horrible to play against.
Okay, so if it's anything like 40 cards Foltest, I will probably hate the shit out of it.
Yes, I think you will.
I didn't face it at all, so I'm kind of in a happy group of people who didn't have to face that. So that's me. I have no idea if the deck is anything because I didn't play against it. But it doesn't sound like anything that can be viable as a competitive deck. So that's me.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's look for some other questions.
Right, so you get to pick one now, Andrada.
Okay. There is one question that is oriented toward me, so I'm gonna ask that one. And yeah, the question sounds like this. What are you guys expecting from the December patch? And on that note, I'd rather any plans to stream more often than just the weekends towards the end of this year. So first I'm going to put the streaming aside so I can actually answer the question. My plan is to stream once a week, every once in a while. And from this December patch, I just want a blacklist. That's the first thing I want to see back in the game. And I want a little bit more tutors. So Witchers won't be auto-included in every deck, so Libby can't abuse them anymore, because we are on a Skellige node. And yeah, that's me. How about you, Crozier? How do you feel about this?
So, I mean, there's like the question what I expect of the patch and what I want from the patch, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
So what I would like to see is also like just blacklisting. I get the idea that they don't want that much consistency anymore for whatever reasons. Okay, just blacklisting. Okay, as a compromise, give me back blacklisting. Imagine how many games you guys would have won if you had blacklisting again. It would make me feel so good. And on top of that, I think just one or two more tutors, like just something out there that makes Witchers not as prevalent, and discard Skellige not like the only thing that really can be tier 1 in that fact. I don't know, and buffing some things here and there. But what do I expect? I think there's gonna be a lot of provision changes and a lot of like small value changes here and there. I would like to have them please get a proper change log where we see every single change, and not how they do it sometimes when they just say, oh, we changed some things, and then you have to figure it out on your own. So I hope we get a change log, and I guess they're gonna nerf some of those most obnoxious things, like the artifact abuse that's happening. Not even because it's like extremely strong. I think if you know how to play around it, it's quite easy to beat. But just because for like players who are getting to know the game, I think it's very off-putting to be owned by something like that over and over in the lower areas of the ladder. So yeah, I think changing that just a bit so it's not as obnoxious anymore might help the game grow a bit again.
Good point. So how about the Bowman?
I mean, yeah, I think we probably all don't have the highest expectations, right? But we can hope about what we want, and I mean, hey, okay, so this is never going to happen. But what I would like to see is just a couple of points added to every card. Bring the average points up of the cards, because nobody likes everything being 4 and all being epidemics, or everything being scorched at the same time. Just bring the numbers up a little bit to stop board wipes being done so easily. Because sure, there are plenty of other ways that could be addressed, right? Like by changing epidemic to only hit 3 max units or whatever. There's all kinds of different ways to go about it, but they're going to be complicated to balance and difficult. If we just bring the average points back up a few points, then it'll be much harder for your whole board to be lost. And I have no concept of whether that's really a difficult or hard change for them to implement, but that's something I'd love to see.
I think that's everything said. But maybe Beardy comes with something new.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely everything you guys said. Personally, I just want Gwen to live, so that's my only hope. I want like Gwen numbers to go up, and some more people come back since like Aiden is dead or something like that. Like that's my expectation. I just want Gwen to do reasonably well. So that's that's the only thing I want actually. So yeah. On that regard, I think this was a great premiere of this faction chat. Is there any way we could have made it any better, Radu?
I don't know. I think we have something to make this thing better, but I'm not 100% sure. I think I need to ask someone in here if he knows. Maybe Bowman, do you know something?
I don't know. It might be nice, if we could all sort of if we could all have something in common, that might be nice. But I'm not sure what.
Maybe Crozier? Do you have something?
Yeah, maybe. So I guess I should tell you that these
He's leaving and
TLG
going
people
to
here-
Artifact, right?
Got him. No, those TLG people here, they were crazy enough to ask me if I wanted to join their team. And I guess I was crazy enough to say yes. So from now on, from today, I shall be a proud member of Team Leviathan Gaming. So happy that you guys are willing to have me. It was not like it was a bit difficult for me at first to decide if I can dedicate myself to a team in Gwent because there's so much going on in my real life. But like the community has been so awesome. Like both from my streaming and also from TLG. Like the beautiful people you see here right now, not just them, but also like Chezzy and then Colin Lance and Bevo and then everyone from Team TLG has been so supportive of me. And so I'm super happy that they're willing to have me and that we're gonna in the future do co-ops and whatnot. So yeah, just super happy to announce this finally. I'll be TLG Crozier from now on.
Welcome aboard.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that. I can't say I knew about it, but
Yeah, me neither.
yeah, I'm really
quite
happy.
surprising.
Yes, I'm really happy that the guy with the coolest emote on Twitch is joining us.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Maybe there's gonna be like a potato dragon at some point.
Yeah, make a potato vampire. I'll allow it.
Yeah, warmest welcome from me as well. Like, I think you're probably one of the kindest guy I met, Gwent. Like, and maybe one day I can tell you guys the story how I met Crozier. Like, it was pretty interesting one.
Oh
So,
God, he's gonna
yeah,
tell us
so-
a story about every girlfriend he has, and in season 8 he's gonna.
So definitely very happy to have you here. So welcome again.
Really happy to be on board.
Nice.
Do we think though, Beardy, that maybe Crozier might be missing something on the team? You know, something not quite long enough.
Yeah. So I
Yeah,
guess
I need
it's
to work on that one, huh?
Yes,
Yeah,
okay,
at
we'll let it
least
slide
like-
for now, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
at least
I-
like Van Dyke or something like that, right? So
I mean, it used to be no shave November or something, and then
Nice.
Yeah, no,
changed
that's a bit
it.
different.
but they're doing
it's
another
no-
thing now. I think.
Yeah, it's no nuts. November
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
That makes your beard grow faster.
Ah, I see.
why did I bring this on?
Also, happy to climb the ladder on Gwent. That's fine.
yeah.
Right.
Oh well.
Well, thank you guys for joining us for this first episode of our season 2. I really hope the next few episodes are going to be at least as good as this one. And I'm really happy for the big announcement. So thanks again, guys, for joining us. And thank you, Bowman, for picking for Chezzy and for also sharing your opinions with us.
Thank you very much, guys. Yeah, it's always fun to come on to these, and especially with such a great 3 people this time. So, and now it turned out to be a full TLG show, right? In the end, who would have guessed
What the plot twist?
that?
Yeah. Love you guys so much for having me.
We do
There you go, Chris.
secretly.
Right, I guess this is goodbye. So thank you everyone for joining us, and we shall see you next week. I think it's gonna be Anna. So yeah, probably the weakest faction. So kind of be very interesting to talk about that one as well. So strongest and weakest factions are probably always best to talk about, at least in my opinion. So yeah.
Very cool.
All right, guys.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. See you.
Bye.